Hi, my name is Dr. Haley Fedor, Assistant Professor of English at Bethany College in the United States. Today I will present my paper titled, The Necessary Representations of Older Women in Baldur's Gate 3. The role-playing video game Baldur's Gate 3 has garnered significant acclaim and attention since its release in 2023. Since its release, it has won 22 awards, including the 2024 BAFTA for Best Game, as well as the Hugo Award for Best Game or Interactive Work. Video games have become the largest sector of the global entertainment industry today, and their enjoyment is spread across every demographic, which makes their cultural influence of extreme significance. How they represent different demographics thus becomes a matter of equal importance. In addition to race, both gender and age are the most prominent markers of social difference. While analyses of gender representation in video games have become more common, this is not the case for gendered representations that intersect with age and aging. Given the number of accolades received and its enduring popularity, Baldur's Gate 3 as a title has significant reach and thus merits study, especially for its depictions of gender roles, and how those depictions intersect with age, race, and sexuality. According to Karen Dill, media portrayals of women and girls do not always reflect the diversity of their roles, characteristics, and capabilities. The purpose of this work is to examine the depictions of gender and gender roles among non-playable characters and how they intersect with age, as well as the tools that allow players to create physically older or elderly playable characters. Analyzing the older female characters featured in the audiovisual content of the game, it is important to pay particular attention to their prominence to the main plot, their physical appearance, voice, language, especially gendered language, their actions and behaviors, and their relationships and ideological values. So we must consider these characters' visual representation, their diversity and complexity, as well as their roles and agency within the game. There are many examples of older female non-player characters in this game, and the fact that there are so many examples is noteworthy and rare in and of itself. The customization options for the main character, or TAV, in Baldur's Gate 3 have been consistently praised since its release. The physical features are diverse across numerous races and sexes, with customizable genitalia that might represent bodies with more or less hair, or bodies that are transgender or intersex. The ability to create elderly main characters has also been remarked upon, with the age slider tool allowing players to choose a visual age for the TAV, from younger adult to elderly, with increasing signs of physical age, wrinkles and age lines, spots, and various levels of graying in the TAV's hair. Graying hair is a separate tool in the character design as well. The ability to create and play elderly main characters is still relatively uncommon in video games today. And frequently, older female non-player characters in games exist as a resource for humor or to encourage reflection upon the darker elements of human existence, namely death, disability, and loss. Representations of powerful older or elderly male characters in media are more frequent than those of their female counterparts. Often, representations of older male characters can be positive, negative, or more nuanced. With powerful older female characters, the representations are frequently negative, or of goals contrary to the main character, or they're killed off. The witch is frequently seen as a symbol or visual representation of female transgression. From their beginnings in the early modern witch trials, Gerhild Scholz-Williams states that witches embodied the essence of disorderliness, for they subverted the order of sexual and procreative practices, family structure, and the divine institute of the state. We do see such a character that embodies this female transgression in the form of Auntie Ethel, whose name alone inserts her symbolically into a family structure, only to disrupt it. Living in a swamp and tempting desperate humans or humanoids into making deals, Auntie Ethel is a popular D&D version of a hag, and her designs for a pregnant minor character named Mayrina's unborn child, namely to eat the baby and birth a new hag, literally disrupts and subverts the procreative practices as well as family structure. Mayrina is tricked into believing her deceased husband would be returned to her in a bargain if she willingly gives up her child to Ethel for it to get a better life. This is not to say that all of the older female characters in Baldur's Gate 3 fit into this dynamic. Many of the major male and female characters have complex, nuanced stories and backgrounds. That's what makes it an interesting role-playing game in the first place. The companion characters all have their own carefully crafted stories that the player can learn about by a variety of means. Not all female characters in Baldur's Gate 3 are negative or stereotypical depictions of femininity. Quite the opposite is true. We see this in the complex, nuanced depictions of female companion characters like Shadowheart, Lae'zel, Minthara, and Jaheira. Minthara is an older dark elf, or drow, female character who starts out potentially in a villain role, as a leader in the Cult of the Absolute, the group thought to be responsible for the Tab and other non-player companions' kidnapping and abuse. Minthara is first seen using a fighting force of goblins and drow to threaten a grove of druids and refugees. She can easily be killed in Act 1, or she can be saved and later rescued in Act 2, depending on player choices. If she is rescued from the Cult of the Absolute, players learn that she was captured by the cult, which has weaponized juvenile illithid or mind flayer tadpoles, and infected her too. Like the Tab and many of the non-player companions, she is a victim of the cult's actions and these tadpoles. Once infected, she was forced to do their bidding under the belief that she was acting of her own volition. Minthara is not a good character per se, but once rescued, comes to understand that she was psychically violated by the Cult of the Absolute. With the player, Minthara shows immense character growth that never seems rushed or false, nor does she become a typically good character. At one point, she declares, "I will never tire of sitting on dead men's thrones," after she aids the player in killing the tyrant who sat upon it. Minthara's character is not a character of strictly black and white morality, and she is complicated, with a past history of trauma the player can learn about through dialogue choices. Another example of a complex, more nuanced female character is Jaheira. A companion character who is in late middle age or elderly, Jaheira does not conform to traditional gendered stereotypes. Although she is a half-elf in this setting, which has a longer lifespan, Jaheira's art and character design show her age in old scars, wrinkles, and gray hair. She is not a kindly, motherly, or grandmotherly figure, nor is she a witch. Jaheira is the leader of a semi-secret organization that is devoted to protecting the innocent from evil in its various forms throughout the realm, called the Harpers. When we find Jaheira in Baldur's Gate 3, she is commanding an outpost in the darkness, literally in an area aptly named the Shadowlands, with a permeating, cursed darkness that spreads everywhere save Jaheira's outpost, thanks to magical means and vigilance. We learn through our interactions with Jaheira and other characters that she has led armies in her past, and made references to saving Baldur's Gate, which is in itself a reference to past games Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. She is a widow, but not content to sit idly by a fire, nor is she overly nurturing and maternal. We learn that she is capable, intelligent, and experienced. She is frequently blunt in manner and crafty. Upon gaining her trust, which in-game is reflected by an approval rating, Jaheira starts calling the player Cub, in a manner that is not overly affectionate but not emotionless either. In other words, Jaheira's character is capable, a veteran leader of multiple conflicts, and has her own good reasons for trying to help the player enjoy them without conforming to maternal stereotypes. Another older female character who is crucial to the plot doesn't appear until the third act of the game, when the player reaches the city of Baldur's Gate. The city of Baldur's Gate functions, as many neo-medieval fantasy games do, as a mercantile and nobility-run plutocracy, with nobles or patriarchs elected to a parliament, with the major decisions in government turned over to the Council of Four. There are 4 representatives of the parliament's choice who are called dukes, male or female, with a chosen duke among them being elected Grand Duke, whose vote serves as the deciding factor in major governing decisions within the city. In Baldur's Gate 3, the Grand Duke is a character named Ulder Ravengard, a self-made man. One of the player's companions, Will Ravengard, is his son, who talks of admiring his father's determination and the fact that he grew up the poor son of a blacksmith who worked his way up the ranks of the Flaming Fist Mercenary Company to become a respected pillar of the community, and hence elected into the ranks of the Council of Four. A duke we come to learn about is a female non-player character named Duke Bellin Stelmane. Bellin Stelmane is a noblewoman who seemingly suffered a stroke years ago after being named to the council, but as players advance through the game, certain choices reveal more about her story, and the tragedy of it. Both Ulder Ravengard and Bellin Stelmane are the most prominent members of the Council of Four in the game itself. How Ulder Ravengard and Bellin Stelmane are treated by the narrative, despite their importance to the main story, are very different. Primarily, Ulder Ravengard is captured by the Cult of the Absolute, enthralled through the use of their mind flayer tadpoles, and held prisoner in a later location within the city of Baldur's Gate in Act 3. Ravengard is able to be rescued by the player and their companions through several differing methods. Bellin Stelmane's character has been murdered by cultists by the time the player reaches the city in Act 3. She cannot be interacted with in any way by the player, aside from memories and discussions with other characters and companions. She is unable to be saved in any way, shape, or form within the game. Additionally, the information we do get of Belen Stelmane from companions like Will Ravengard reveals a complex portrait. She is described as beautiful, intelligent, and a force to be reckoned with in her youth. She also suffers from a paralyzing stroke, and this is what older Ravengard tells Will, but passing a skill check reveals that Will doesn't entirely believe that explanation. It is only later through dialogue choices with the Illithid or Mind Flayer non-player character, called the Emperor, that we understand what truly happened to her. The Emperor is an initial ally to the player who can easily become antagonistic once his manipulative behavior is revealed, and we learn that Belen's stroke was the result of psychic backlash from the Emperor himself, while making her his thrall or slave. The player is privy to scenes of Belen Stelmane initially shown as a partner to the Emperor, when he first waxes poetic about their relationship, but if the player rebukes the Emperor's romantic advances in-game, he reveals that Belen Stelmane was just his thrall, and he threatens the same upon the player if they don't go along with his plans. Instead of being possessed by a mind flayer like Belen Stelmane, older Ravengard is in the thrall of the Cult of the Absolute, and while the result is similar, he says and does exactly as the cult wishes, like Belen did exactly as the Emperor wished, his fate is not one of certain doom, unlike Belen's. The fact that Belen is an older female character with political power, and killed off to further the story, falls closer in line with stereotypical gender depictions of older female characters who are not evil but hold positions of power. While there are some stereotypical depictions of minor female characters, they are namely relegated to hags like Auntie Ethel, a D&D creature that is rooted in the old stereotypes of witches. Other depictions of older female characters like Minthara and Jaheira are far more complex and present nuanced, interesting characters in the story. Baldur's Gate 3 is not a video game full of gendered or ageist stereotypes, and instead presents us with a number of older female characters who are good, villainous, or complex in a combination of both. The problem of Belen Stelmane versus older Ravengard's parallel narratives, however, shows that there can and perhaps should be room for improvement. Thank you.